Red Bull could be facing its most dangerous technical crisis of the season after the FIA reportedly targeted the so-called Macarena wing for deeper inspection. The source links Red Bull and Ferrari to these checks after Max Verstappen's crash, but it does not confirm an illegal device, a failed test, or any official penalty. And that is exactly why this story is so explosive. Because if the wing was simply clever, the scandal disappears. But if the damaged component revealed movement the normal tests could not detect, Red Bull could be forced into an urgent redesign, lose critical performance, and trigger a technical war across the entire grid. The biggest clue is not what the FIA has announced. It is what officials still have not explained. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why this inspection matters, you have to separate what the FIA examined from what the public assumes it found. The available source says Red Bull and Ferrari were preparing for so-called Macarena inspections after Max Verstappen's crash. That is significant. But it does not say the FIA discovered an illegal device inside Red Bull's wing. It does not describe a hidden mechanism. It does not confirm a failed test. And it does not show that Red Bull received a penalty, a formal warning, or an order to redesign the car. That difference changes the entire story. Because an inspection is not the same as a conviction. Formula One cars are checked constantly. Officials measure parts. They study movement. They examine damaged components. And after a crash, they may gain access to areas that are normally hidden from view. A broken wing can reveal how the internal structure was built. It can show where the component is strongest, where it flexes, and how different layers respond when the car is under load. But seeing the inside of a part does not automatically mean finding something illegal. Imagine dropping a phone and cracking it open. For the first time, you can see the battery, the wiring, and the frame beneath the screen. That does not prove the phone contained a secret device. It only means the internal construction is now easier to inspect. That is the first major point. Verstappen's crash may have given the FIA a closer look. But the source does not tell us what that closer look revealed. And that missing detail is the center of the controversy. Because there are several completely different possibilities. The FIA may have examined the wing and found nothing unusual. Officials may have found a clever design that still passed every required test. They may have decided the existing inspection method was no longer detailed enough. Or they may have discovered behavior that required further action. The source does not confirm which of those happened. So any claim that something alarming was found remains unproven. But here is where the name Macarena becomes important. The word sounds almost humorous. The technical idea behind it may not be. The inspection appears to involve moving or loading a component through several directions, rather than checking only one simple point. Think of testing a door. Push it forward, and you learn one thing. Pull it sideways, and you learn something else. Move it through several angles, and weaknesses that were invisible before may begin to appear. A Formula One wing is far more complicated. But the principle is easy to understand. A component can behave one way during a standard test, then react differently when the forces change direction. That matters because a wing experiences enormous pressure at speed. The faster the car moves, the harder the air pushes against it. And if the structure bends in a carefully controlled way, the car may gain performance. More grip in corners. Less resistance on straights. A better balance between two demands that normally fight against each other. That would be extremely valuable. But valuable does not mean illegal. The rule matters. The test matters. And the amount of movement matters. Every Formula One team designs parts as close to the legal limit as possible. That is not a scandal. That is competition. The controversy begins when a component appears to satisfy the official test, but behaves differently on the track. And that may be why a more complex inspection exists. The FIA may want to know whether the wing changes shape in a way the earlier procedure did not fully capture. But again, the source does not say Red Bull failed that inspection. It only links Red Bull and Ferrari to the process. That suggests the concern may be wider than one team. And that is a crucial clue. If Red Bull and Ferrari were both preparing for the same inspection, the FIA may have been studying a broader design trend across the grid. Not hunting for one secret Red Bull device. That does not remove the pressure. It changes the nature of it. Instead of asking whether Red Bull alone cheated, the real question may be whether several teams found the same gray area. A gray area is where the written rule and the real behavior of the car do not fit together perfectly. One team sees legal innovation. Another sees an unfair advantage. The governing body sees a test that may need to evolve. That is how some of Formula One's biggest technical battles begin. Not with a clear crime. With an interpretation. And interpretation can change everything. Imagine a school rule saying students must remain behind a line. One student stands exactly on the edge. A teacher says the student is still behind it. Another teacher says the student is clearly trying to defeat the purpose of the rule. The argument is not about where the line exists. It is about what the rule was meant to prevent. Formula One works the same way. A team may say the wing passed the written test. A rival may say the wing still violates the intention of the regulation. The FIA then has to decide whether the test is enough, or whether the real on-track behavior requires a new standard. That decision can be more damaging than a penalty. Because a penalty affects one result, a new test can affect the rest of the season. If Red Bull built part of its performance around a certain type of wing movement, a stricter inspection could force the team to change the design. That could alter the balance of the entire car. The wing does not work alone. It manages the first major contact between the car and the air. Change that airflow, and everything behind it may respond differently. The floor, the rear of the car, the tires, the stability under braking, even the driver's confidence. Think of changing the first turn in a long train track. Every carriage behind it follows a different path. That is why an urgent redesign would not be simple. Red Bull could not just make one section stiffer and expect the rest of the car to behave exactly the same. The engineers would need to understand the full chain reaction. A stiffer wing might reduce movement, but it could also reduce efficiency. The car may become slower on the straight. The front may lose grip in certain corners. The rear may feel less stable because the airflow reaching it has changed. And a small technical correction could become a large performance problem. But there is still no confirmation that Red Bull was forced to make any such change. That remains the missing fact. The source also mentions Ferrari, and it separately refers to Williams receiving extra technical checks. That wider context matters. It suggests the FIA may be increasing scrutiny across several teams, not isolating Red Bull. Different cars may be facing different questions. Different inspections may have different reasons. But the common message is clear. The governing body is watching closely. That does not prove guilt. It proves the technical battle is becoming more intense. And when several teams are pushing the same boundary, the FIA faces a difficult choice. Leave the current test unchanged, and teams may continue developing in that direction. Strengthen the test, and teams that relied on the old interpretation may lose performance. Apply the new standard inconsistently, and the championship's credibility suffers. That is why consistency matters more than drama. The same inspection must apply to every relevant team. The same limits must apply to every wing. And the same consequences must follow the same result. Without that, the argument becomes political. Red Bull supporters may say the team is being targeted. Ferrari supporters may say the rules are changing at the wrong moment. Rivals may argue that the FIA waited too long. And fans may start seeing every technical decision as part of a conspiracy. That is far more dangerous than one flexible wing. Because Formula One depends on trust. The audience cannot perform these tests. The public cannot measure the parts. Most fans will never see the full technical data. They rely on the FIA to apply the rules fairly. And they rely on teams to compete inside those rules. When the explanation is unclear, suspicion fills the gap. That may be the most alarming part of this story. Not what officials found. What they have not explained. The title suggests the FIA discovered something inside Red Bull's wing. The source only confirms that inspections were expected. Those are not the same thing. Discovery means a specific finding exists. Inspection means officials looked. And until the FIA reveals what happened after the inspection, the difference between those words remains enormous. But there is another reason Verstappen's crash matters. A damaged car can expose construction details that remain hidden during normal checks. The internal supports. The direction of the fibers. The way separate elements are connected. The points designed to carry the greatest load. All of that can help officials understand how the wing behaves. And if the construction created movement in a way the current test did not fully measure, the crash may have revealed more than Red Bull expected. That does not mean the design was illegal. It means the FIA may have learned something new. And learning something new can lead to a new test. That is where Red Bull's real danger begins. Not necessarily with a penalty. With a rule interpretation that changes after the team has already designed the car. If the FIA decides the wing's behavior must be limited more strictly, Red Bull may need to adapt quickly. Ferrari may need to adapt too. Other teams may suddenly gain. And the competitive order could move without anyone being formally accused of cheating. That possibility is far more realistic than a secret device hidden inside the wing. Formula One controversies are often less dramatic on the inside than they appear from the outside. No hidden motor. No illegal switch. No secret button. Just a structure designed so cleverly that the existing test may no longer be enough. That is still a major issue. Because the line between clever and unacceptable can decide championships. And every team wants that line drawn in the place that protects its own car. Red Bull would argue for the legality of a design that passes. A rival losing time may demand stricter control. The FIA must stand between them. And whatever it decides, someone will believe the decision was unfair. That is why official language becomes critical. Did Red Bull pass? Was the inspection routine? Will the test change? Will teams be given time to adapt? Will any results be affected? The source answers none of those questions. So the story remains unfinished. What we know is limited. Red Bull and Ferrari were linked to a new inspection process after Verstappen's crash. Williams faced extra checks in a separate report. And the wider Formula One field is moving through a highly competitive technical era. What we do not know is far more important. Whether Red Bull failed. Whether anything illegal was found. Whether a redesign was ordered. And whether the FIA believes the current wing rules need to change. Until those answers appear, the phrase alarming discovery is ahead of the evidence. But the inspection itself still matters. Because if the FIA found nothing unusual, the scandal disappears. If it found a clever but legal construction, Red Bull may have exposed a weakness in the test. And if it found behavior outside the intended limit, the team could face a much larger technical fight. 3 possibilities. 3 completely different consequences. And only one of them can be true. That is why the next official detail could change everything.